Our daily Bible reading for May 2nd. Our reading today comes from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 22, beginning in verse 39. And he came out and went, as was his custom, to the Mount of Olives, and the disciples followed him. When they came to the place, he said to them, "Pray that you may not enter into temptation." And he withdrew from them about a stone's throw, and knelt down and prayed, saying, "Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done." And there appeared to him an angel from heaven, strengthening him. And being in an agony, he prayed more earnestly, that his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. When he arose from prayer, he came to the disciples and found them sleeping for sorrow. And he said to them, "Why are you sleeping? Rise and pray that you may not enter into temptation." While he was still speaking, there came a crowd, and the man called Judas, one of the 12, was leading them. He drew near to Jesus to kiss him, but Jesus said to him, "Judas, would you betray the Son of Man with a kiss?" When those who were around him saw what would follow, they said, "Lord, shall we strike with the sword?" And one of them struck a servant of the high priest and cut off his right ear. But Jesus said, "No more of this." And he touched his ear and healed him. Then Jesus said to the chief priests and officers of the temple and elders who had come out against him, "Have you come out as against a robber with swords and clubs? When I was with you day after day in the temple, you did not lay hands on me, but this is your hour and the power of darkness." Then they seized him and led him away, bringing him into the high priest's house, and Peter was following at a distance. When they had kindled a fire in the middle of the courtyard and sat down together, Peter sat among them. Then a servant girl, seeing him as he sat in the light and looking closely at him, said, "That man also was with him." But he denied it, saying, "Woman, I do not know him." And a little later, someone else saw him and said, "You are also one of them." But Peter said, "Man, I am not." And after an interval of about an hour, still another insisted, saying, "Certainly this man also was with him, for he too is a Galilean." But Peter said, "Man, I do not know what you are talking about." And immediately, while he was still speaking, the rooster crowed. And the Lord turned and looked at Peter. And Peter remembered the saying of the Lord, how he had said to him, "Before the rooster crows today, you will deny me 3 times." And he went out and wept bitterly. Now the men who were holding Jesus in custody were mocking him as they beat him. They also blindfolded him and kept asking him, "Prophesy, who is it that struck you?" And they said many other things against him, blaspheming him. When day came, the assembly of the elders of the people gathered together, both chief priests and scribes, and they led him away to their council, and they said, "If you are the Christ, tell us." But he said to them, "If I tell you, you will not believe, and if I ask you, you will not answer. But from now on, the Son of Man shall be seated at the right hand of the power of God." And they all said, "Are you the Son of God then?" And he said to them, "You say that I am." Then they said, "What further testimony do we need? We have heard it ourselves from his own lips." Have you ever gotten to the point where you just don't think you have the strength to go on? That feeling of complete and utter exhaustion? Many will say that this feeling is not always from physical exertion, but from the mental distress. Those inside the medical community have long known the connection between stress and illness. Stress and pressure weigh heavily on the mind and in turn affect the body as well. In our well-known passage before us, we have the agonizing Savior alone in the garden, about to face his own trial and crucifixion. Jesus knew that the only way through this was with the help of the Father. To that end, an angel was sent to aid in this time of struggle. Those who are wise know that in their times of trial, the true strength they need is found in the aid and comfort that only God can truly offer. For in nothing the world can offer is there assurance of help such as God can give. Have you known the fervency of prayer that Jesus displayed in the garden? This level of prayer should not be viewed as one of desperation, though it often is found in dire situation. It is the soul's effort to reach the ears of an all-loving and compassionate God. And as such, we will hear the words we utter from within. The rare condition that we find with Jesus sweating drops of blood has puzzled many over the years. Although this medical condition is relatively rare, according to Dr. Frederick Zugaby, Chief Medical Examiner of Rockland County, New York, it is well known and there have been many cases of it. The clinical term is hematidrosis. Around the sweat glands there are multiple blood vessels in a net-like form. Under the pressure of great stress, the vessels constrict. Then, as anxiety passes, the blood vessels dilate to the point of rupture. The blood goes into the sweat glands. As the sweat glands are producing a lot of sweat, it pushes the blood to the surface, coming out as droplets of blood mixed with sweat. This was found in ChristianAnswers.net. In such times as agony that overcomes us, we would be wise to find the only solace of lasting effect. We will be wise to seek our Father through his Son, who is quite well acquainted with all we shall pass through in this life. Question of the day. Are there troubles in your life that require a fervent prayer on your part today? A thought to meditate on this day. Surely the Father cares about us in the struggles we go through daily. He is not willing that any of us should perish. And those are our thoughts for today, May 2nd.